In this video, I'm going to patch a complete simulation of one of Yamaha's 4-operator DX synthesizers. I'm going to demonstrate all functions of the partial oscillator module and show and explain its musical meaning. But I'm not going to talk in depth about the principles, physics or mathematics of frequency modulation, phase modulation and the difference between these, nor will I explain in depth what through zero FM is and what do the terms linear and exponential technically mean. Just a few rather shallow words here and there about all of this shall be sufficient in this video, because I'm mainly going to deal with the musical meaning of it all. Those of you who would like a more technical, physical, mathematical, in-depth explanation of the mentioned terms will find that will find what they want in my video about the Zeroscillator, as well as in my workshop about frequency modulation. The links to both are down in the description. The Zeroscillator video is even a part of this playlist here. This video here is about creative and artful sound design and creative and artful ways of producing music. So let's get going now. Before I continue, please have a look at this. It's my new online course, Production Secrets of Generative Music with Modular Synths, and it's useful not only for making generative music. You can get it from my website. The link is down in the description. Stop. One last remark before we can dive deep into the wonderful world of sound. There's no timeline in the description. I'll not write timelines anymore. Indeed, I've become a member of the anti-timeline movement. There are a lot of reasons for that, but the two reasons which are most important to me are, first, the YouTube algorithm, which gives preferential treatment to longer watch times, and second, and even more important to me, slow down. Relax and enjoy occupying yourself with music, music machines and the modules. Watch and enjoy diving deep into them and start to really understand and to feel the tools you are working with. If you are in a hurry, which is bad for your production, anyway, just use the manual or the module help. Okay, let the fun begin now. A very quick overview of this well-structured module might come in handy at the beginning. The lowest frequencies, which we get with the octave knob here set to its leftmost position, are in LFO range, in sub-audio range. And they are synced to my DAW. Please watch this frequency meter here, and I change here above the BPM rate, and while I do so, the frequencies here change as well. The exact frequency which is given out by the module depends on the position of the fine-tune knob, where we see the fractions. All right. In audio rate, which means the octave knob is switched to a position from octave 0, let me do so, octave 0 to octave 5. The frequencies are not dependent on my DAW, they are not synced to my DAW. Let me change the BPM rate here above, and nothing changes with the frequencies, of course not. They reach from about 10 Hz to about 78 Hz. Let me go up. It's about 78 Hz, 70, 84 and something. And switching to higher partials, here above, here down, I can generate frequencies up to 24,000 Hertz, 24 kilohertz. And these 24 kilohertz are the absolute limit the module can deliver. Let me go back again. Otherwise, the mentioned frequencies are bass frequencies. Let me go to a lower octave range, which can be changed and modulated by external CV. Let me use the LFO here. And you see they are modulated, these frequencies. The module's basic wave shape, is a sine wave. Everything is based on a sine wave. But we can fractalize this wave with which changes the world completely. Using this fractalize knob here, I'm going to turn it up again, and you will see and hear, please look at the oscilloscope as well, how the sunshine is lit in our world. And you see, like in those fractal graphics, that the wave shape generates more and more smaller and smaller copies of itself. And back again. Yeah. Let me mention already here in this early stage of the video that the fractalizing function works also in LFO mode, and it works together with all other wave shaping and timbre modulating functions of the module. Let me demonstrate LFO mode again. Turning up the fractalizing function. And you see we can generate quite interesting wave shapes this way. LFO rate wave shapes, which we then can use to modulate other things and other parameters in our patch. There's even a CV input jack and an attached attenuator knob to modulate the strength of the fractalization. Both the jack and the potentiometer sit in the next part of the module. These two, they belong to this first part here, but they sit here. The next part, called frequency modulation, I'm going to deal with in a minute. I'll use an LFO to do the modulation. Okay, and when adding a bit of filtering here and capable reverb to it, all we get a nice bass camp for further sonic mountain climbing. Let me mess around with the modules a bit. So at first the reverb, the filter and the reverb, of course. So yeah, all right. And this left to the right channel. And then changing a bit the resonances and the cutoff. Add with higher frequencies. And lower LFO rates. Okay, you got it, as well as me. By the way, do you have a YouTube channel of your own, or are you kind of active on social media? Well, then I have a special offer for you later in this video. The next section below the pitch section is responsible for all kinds of frequency modulation. It's this section here. Let me only name them now. linear frequency modulation, exponential frequency modulation, and through zero frequency modulation. I'll explain these terms and their principle a little bit deeper later in this video, and I really mean only a little bit. Let me just demonstrate the sonic differences now and here. Right now there's no frequency modulation going on at all. The attenuator potentiometers here down are at 0. The pitch is generated by a sample and hold, here sample and hold and quantizer fraction. Now let me open the linear frequency modulation attenuator now. And down again. Reduce the modulation strength again. And the same with exponential frequency modulation. Again, a little bit faster both. Let me remove the pitch modulation. And now compare linear through zero, as it is now. With this knob, this symbol, upper symbol means through zero, and without through zero. Let me at least mention that with through zero frequency modulation we get more partials in the spectrum, but later a little bit more about this. I can play around with different combinations of linear and exponential and with different envelopes. And let me add the pitch modulation again. The famous bell sounds are entering the stage. All right. The next one, the next section, I'm hurrying through this module as if there were a beer waiting for me at the other end. Well, okay, but no fear. I'm going to show you amazing things and explain some more details a little bit later. Okay, the partial modulator section, this one here. A partial is, at least here and with this module, an integer multiple of the lowest frequency in the spectrum here of the fundamental, called the fundamental. And it is this lowest frequency here is around, at the moment is about 65 Hertz. So all available partials are integer multiples of 65 Hertz. Let me show second, third, fourth, and so on partial. Okay, and when I modulate the partial number using this top here, this CV in jack, when I modulate the partial number, I get a melody, here a random melody because I use a sample and hold module. And this melody contains only pitches of the harmonic overtone series of the fundamental. Let me show this. All of these partials, all of these tones, what we hear, are parts, members of the harmonic overtone series. Let me show a little fun patch before I continue with the other functions in this section. I modulate the partial number again. You see here with this sample and hold module. But additionally, I modulate the linear FM by an LFO. Here, this one. This LFO is running at a very low sub-audio rate. And I use a second sample and hold module to this one here to modulate the basic pitch. But this sample and hold module produces another pitch CV only each 16th step of the first sample and hold module, and therefore the partial melody, which is generated by this sample and hold module, is based on another fundamental each 16th note, each 16th step. And additionally, there's a smooth pitch and timbre movement caused by the FM LFO, this one here. There's also a fractalization modulation going on by the upper half of this double LFO. And it's important to say that there is absolutely no synchronization between the two LFOs, nor between these LFOs and the rates of the sample and hold modules. And at the end, a little bit of delay here takes care of the rest of the beauty. All right. Just by the way, removing all modulations but for the linear FM and the fractalization delivers also some nice atmospheric sounds. Let me do so. So I remove the fractalization, the pitch, the partial modulation. Voila. Nice. All right. Back to the functionality of the partial section. Offset CV, the offset CV inject here, adds to the adjusted partial, and multiplying the multiplying CV input jack adds, not adds, but multiplies, of course, the adjusted partial. As long as the adjusted partial is 1, there is not really a huge difference. Okay, so let me patch in 5 volt DC offset. And we land at 328 Hertz. And when I use the multiplication input jack, we land at 328 Hertz as well. So you might remember, hopefully, from school, 1 times 5 is the same as 5. Okay, like in real life, the number, multiplying the number of your lovers by 1 doesn't really change a lot. But when we start with higher partials, let me do so. Let's say partial number 2, then things get different. So adding, multiplying. Please notice that the module starts multiplying at once. I've adjusted the DC offset of 1 volt only here, and I patch it in the multiplication input jack, and the module goes silent because right now it's multiplying already, multiplying by 0. The attenuator is at 0. 0% of 1 volt is 0 volt, of course. And now I increase the attenuator, and we get frequencies below 65 hertz because it multiplies by 1 volt attached here, attached here, 1 volt times, what do we have, for example, now 50% and so on. So it means it delivers half of the frequencies. Now we are at this 65 hertz, 100% times 1. Okay, let me increase the DC offsets to 5 volt again. We can do both. We can do adding and we can do multiplying at the same time. But we have to take care when we want to get a certain frequency, because we have to know that the module adds at first. Now it's adding this 5 volt DC offset, and then it multiplies the resulting frequency. The module adds to the basic frequency at first, which makes it go up to 328 hertz, as we have seen. And then it multiplies the resulting frequency, which makes it go up to 5 times the resulting frequency, which is 1660 hertz. Oops, this might have been a bit too deep for a first quick overview. Well, let's quickly move on to the next part, to the next section, the phase modulation section. And no, I'm not going to explain the difference between FM frequency modulation and phase modulation here. I'm just going to show you the sonic differences of both with this module. Or would you really like to dive deep into the mathematics and techniques of angle modulations? Here in this video, I bet you wouldn't. A short demonstration what phase relations mean might come in handy for some of you. In this batch here, there are 2 partial oscillators, this one and this one, and the adjustments are 100% identical. The outputs are shown in the upper 2 half wave graphics, this one and this one, the red one and the green one. And the lower one, the blue curve, shows the sum of both. I've patched it through the mixer, to the micro mixer here. The blue curve is therefore higher. The sum of the amplitudes is higher than the amplitudes of each of these. But when I shift the phase using this knob here, let me do so. I shift the phase of, you see here, of the green curve. I shift the phase until I reach a phase shift of 180 degrees, which is 1/2 wave. It's here, 175, okay. Let me try to 185, it's too much. Yeah, that's okay, 180. Now, the lows of one wave fall against the highs of the other, and so they cancel out. I can CV modulate this process, the phase shift, for example, by using an LFO. Let me do so. And now I'm already phase modulating the module, but in sub-audio rate so far. Using another oscillator, an audio rate oscillator, let me do so, leads us to the well-known sounds. the sounds we know, for example, from the good old and famous Yamaha DX7. The attenuator here lets me adjust the strength or the modulation, of course. And as with the DX7 operators, I can add feedback here to the sound. Let me compare the results of phase modulation and those of the diverse frequency modulations. I'll increase the phase modulation from 0 to 25%, and I'll do the same with the linear FM and linear through 0 FM, followed by exponential FM now. So at first the phase modulation. Linear FM, through 0, and exponential. Okay, and now the same with 50%. 50% phase modulation. Linear FM. Through 0. And exponential. And 100% modulation strength now. Phase modulation. Linear frequency modulation. Through 0. And exponential. And phase modulation again. You see and hear that exponential FM and phase modulation are a little bit more similar to each other than phase modulation and linear frequency modulation. And now the same with the volume envelope modulated so that we get single hits. now I implement a second envelope VCA couple here to modulate the modulation strength, and let me mess around with the adjustments for a while. All right, shall be enough. The setup as we have it now, but without the LFO and without the oscilloscope, was called an operator in the good old days of Yamaha's DX7, which had 6 of those operators, which could be used in series, with the result of the modulation being used as a modulator of the next operator, or parallel or partly in series and partly parallel and so on. These different arrangements of the operators were called algorithms, and the DX7 offered 32 of them. Here, with our partial oscillator at the heart of such an operator patch, and with the possibility of physically patching, we are far more flexible and can achieve an amount of different sounds which is, well, uncountably large. Some of which I'm going to patch indeed later in this video.
It's great and wonderful that you like my work, my ebooks, my videos, my production. All right then, come and earn some money together with me. Simply join my affiliate program. It's really easy, it's simple, it's without any obligations, and it might be even fun for you. Read the details on my website and start earning money, and not even a little only. Just click the link down in the description to learn more about it. I'm looking forward to meeting you there. Cheers and peace.
There are some more functions in the phase modulation section. We can synchronize the phase using an external pulse, for example the square wave of an LFO. Let me do so. Okay, each time now when the synchronizing pulse jumps to its high level, the phase is reset to 0 or to that value which is adjusted manually here with this knob. Alright, let me remove it again. And there's oscillator feedback, but take care, it's bipolar. 0 feedback is at the 12 o'clock position of this big knob here. Okay, and this, we can even add some noise to this feedback mechanism with this little knob here. But less is more, except you want to go into the direction of what shall I say, Japanese noise music or something like that. Let me reduce the noise to 0 again. We can modulate the feedback using the CV inject below here. Let me do so. Let's use this one here. And this modulation is equipped with the attenuator knob here. All right, let's remove this. So we have feedback delay, and it reaches from 0.04 milliseconds, which is no audible delay at all, up to a maximum of 61.20 milliseconds, 61.2 milliseconds, which generates an echo-like, sometimes a little bit watery sound. Let me do so. You see this window here. Going down, 0.04 milliseconds. Going up. .2 milliseconds. You see nicely how the feedback sets in when I reduce it and increase it again. Now I increase it again. Let's go down to minimum adjustment again. Like with the noise steering oscillator, which I explained in my last video, it's part of this playlist, and you'll find additionally a link to it down in the description. We can freeze the module's heart so that it falls into a deep frozen sleep, just like Princess Snow White in one of the fairy tales of the Grimm brothers. But I can kiss it to come back to life again. Well, I don't know if it's just my kiss that would comfortably rouse a princess, or if I should rather call it a shock therapy. Anyway. All right, let me rather use patch cables than kisses, but at first I'll shake the princess by her shoulder and push the face manually to and fro. Well, the princess will react somehow. Let's have a look. So I freeze it with this knob going up and shake the princess. Yes, princess is reacting somehow. Anyway, in the next step I'll take an LFO and let it do my job. So I patch the LFO to the phase modulation input jack. And the princess gets nervous a bit, like having a disturbing dream. But the real fun begins when I modulate the phase at audio rate. Let me do so. And let me patch the output of the modulating basic oscillator to the oscilloscope as well, so that we see both the original wave here and the output of the partial oscillator. The modulating wave is given out here, and we see that it is folded. The module works as a wave folder now, and you will have noticed that I've changed the terminology from a princess back to a partial oscillator. Okay, I hope you don't mind. So this wave is folded by the partial oscillator in freeze mode. Our not so fast train through the functionality of the partial oscillator has reached its last station, the output section, which is called the AM, the amplitude modulation section, and we can do real audio rate amplitude modulation as well as ring modulation here. Again, my ardent longing for giving deep and thorough explanations bumps against the hard wall of my promise to deliver a fast walk through the module's functions. Therefore, only a very few remarks. A nice strangeness first. When we switch between the two modes, here AM and RM, amplitude modulation and ring modulation, the volume jumps back to 100%. So I reduce the volume, switch, and back to 100. Reduce the volume, switch and back to 100. All right. A bit of serious work now. When modulating the volume via the CV input jack here in AM mode, as it is right now, the volume falls to 0 with negative CV values. So let me show this. Now we have 0 lines here when the CV, when the LFO, the phase of the LFO has its negative wave. Whereas in RM, in ring modulation mode, the wave is inverted. So no periods of silence in between. It gets even better visible when we use audio rate modulation. I take the basic oscillator here at a frequency of about 32 Hertz. Ring modulation at first AM, and you see there are always these periods of silence. Well, it's not silence because we don't hear it as silence because the modulation takes place at audio rate, but we see it here on the oscilloscope. Always when the modulating basic oscillator wave has its negative half phase, and when we switch to ring modulation, the wave is simply, no, what I say simply, but it is inverted. Let me adjust different frequency relations between modulator and modulated oscillator to demonstrate a few of the differences between amplitude modulation and ring modulation. Please notice the typical bell-like sounds which we can get with ring modulation. So, but let me, all right. Imagine now a percussive envelope with a long release, and then we have bells. All right. A last short remark on functionality. When you click on the name of the module, right-click, the menu opens and you can choose the behavior of some of the functions of the module. All right. End of theory and functionality with or without princesses. Let's do some patching. The first of today's patching isn't really anything special. I make use of the partial oscillator here, of course, but in LFO mode, and increase the fractalization manually and very slowly. Nothing special. In our Czech language, nothing special needs mods. On social media, I read M-E-H, meh, 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 from time to time, like the sound goats make, meh. And goats in Czech is kozy. But we don't use these words to talk about animals most of the time because kozy is, okay, colloquial, and the Czech way is, let's say, the Czech way of saying tits or boobs. I knew that this module was going to be very interesting. All right. Okay, the basic sound is a saw wave coming from the basic oscillator here, and sent through a ladder filter, this micro ladder filter here. The filter is cut off, is modulated by the partial oscillator, and as well as is the drive amount of the filter. So let's have a look at the cables here and here the drive. First I increase the fractalization very slowly. Then I add feedback very slowly. and decrease the fractalization again. And increase the feedback delay time. And back again, a little bit faster. Well, that's it. Some nice sounds here and there, but all in all, meh. The next patch here is already a little bit more interesting and delivers quite a variety of sounds. It's the same sequence as before, but this time all parameters are modulated by LFOs, which run at different rates and with different phase relations, so that we always get different sonic situations. The modulated parameters are fractalization amount, linear through 0 FM, exponential FM, partial number offset, phase modulation, sub-audio rate, and feedback. The partial oscillator's audio is sent through a delay, and the envelope VCA couple takes care of the percussive character of the whole sound. Time for a bit of more serious work. I'm going to patch a complex 4-operator FM/PM synth resembling the smaller members of Yamaha's DX synth family now. Please notice that I say resembling, not mimicking. What I'm going to patch now is quite a bit more capable than these smaller grandfathers of FX DX synthesis, and that because of the functionality of our partial oscillator here. We have already met the prototype of a basic building block, the operator block, of such an enterprise earlier in this video, but I'm going to change it a bit. Well, let's go. Please look at the block diagram. It shows how I want each of these operators to be. There's one partial oscillator, and both FM inputs as well as the PM input can be used. The main out will be patched in one central mixer VCA envelope block later. The attenuators of the PM and the two FM inputs will be always adjusted to maximum because the modulation strength depends on the shown VCA ADSR blocks. If there isn't any signal patched in an operator input, there won't be no modulation of the corresponding modulation method. I want to play the whole patch with my MIDI keyboard later, and therefore I take all needed gate signals and the pitch from my DAW. The whole patch is going to have 4 of these operators, which I can then patch in series or parallel or partly in series and partly parallel. In series means that the result of the possible complex modulation of one operator serves as the modulating signal for the following operator, and given the further fact that each of the operators contains an internal feedback functionality, as we have seen, but I can additionally patch modulation feedbacks over more than just one operator, you will admit that such a patch can keep you up and awake more than one whole night. Well, and here is one of these operator patches. Right now, with only one operator, I'd use the basic oscillator here on the left side as a modulator. In the complete 4-operator patch, I'll remove it, of course, and on the opposite side, here on the right side, there is the main VCA envelope block, so far with only one operator, still without a mixer. Just in case you miss the 3-operator inputs, these are the inputs of the amplifiers, of course. I've played a little melody and recorded the MIDI in my DAW sequencer and let it play. You hear it. To mess around with the envelope adjustments here. Each envelope adjusts the development of linear, exponential, FM, and phase modulation. Please notice that both oscillators, the modulator, the basic oscillator here, as well as the carrier, the partial oscillator here, get their pitch CV from the DAW, so that we always have the same modulator to carrier frequency ratio. Here are the pitch cables, and they go to both oscillators. Well, let me now mess around with the envelopes to adjust different kinds of modulation, frequency modulation, linear, through zero, and not exponential, and phase modulation. At first, as you see here, this envelope, and here is the attached amplifier, goes to the linear through zero frequency modulation, okay. And a little bit of exponential. But perhaps with attack and phase modulation. And what about a bit attack on the phase modulation? And a percussive exponential. All right, let's proceed and develop this patch further. And now the same with 4 of these operator patches. I've patched the oscilloscope after the mixer to show the wave, which is the result of the algorithms, which I can patch now. What's the meaning of algorithm here? Well, I use this terminology following the terms used with Yamaha's DX series of the 1980s. The word algorithm means the way these 4 operators are connected in series, parallel, or partly in series and partly parallel, with or without feedback, and so on. Let's construct some of these algorithms now. The first rather simple algorithm uses only operator 1, here on the left side, and operator 2 on the other side. Let me scroll. Here, this one. With operator 1 on the left as the modulator, and operator 2 on the right as the modulated operator, the carrier. The modulated operator is called the carrier. I have muted mixer channels 1, 3, and 2 and 4. 1, 3, and 4. So, because I want to hear only the output, the audio output of the modulated operator of operator 2 here. All right, let me scroll to operator 1 and patch its output to, well, let's say, to the phase modulation input of operator 2. A little bit of adjusting the envelope, longer release. Here's the main volume envelope. All right. That's more or less what we had before, only with a whole operator as the modulator instead of only the basic oscillator from before. All right, so what about, let's say, some feedback between the operators? I patched the output of operator 2 to, let's say, the linear FM input of operator 1 and adjusting the envelope. Okay, well, things have begun to be more interesting now, I think. I'm going to patch 4 of the original algorithms of Yamaha's DX27, plus 1 more algorithm of my own. The first is algorithm number 3 of the DX27. The block diagram shows it. Operator 3 modulates operator 2, which then modulates operator 1, but operator 1 is additionally modulated by operator 4, which is running with some feedback adjusted. Let's see and hear what this algorithm may be good for. I start my source sequencer. By the way, is it still necessary to say that I'm going to use only phase modulation here because Yamaha's machines were exclusively phase modulation synths? I think it's not necessary. But anyway, I have mentioned it. Okay, there's only one operator sending its audio to the main audio out of voltage modular. It's operator 1. So I unmute mixer channel 1 and mute the other 3 mixer channels. So 3 and 4 are muted already. Then I patch the output of operator 3, this one here, to the phase modulation input of operator 2. Let me do so. So here. The phase modulation, yes, okay, of operator 2. Then the output of this operator 2 to the phase modulation input of operator 1, of course. The operator which sends its audio to the output. And the sound changes, of course, remarkably. It gets something of an aggressively struck string instrument. Now I patch the output of operator 4 to the phase modulation input of operator 1. Let me scroll to operator 4. And I see, let me show you, that I'm missing something. I need an input mixer now. So let me use the micro mixer. Where it is? Here it is, the micro mixer. We'll set it here, set it in. And let me use the 2 mixer channels. Ah, come on. The wrong scroll key. And the output of the mixer to the phase modulation input of operator 1. But now the modulation is a bit too strong, so I reduce the mixer channels amounts. Yeah, that's okay. I add a little bit of feedback to the output of mixer channel 4, of operator 4. Well, that's the basic algorithm. Now I can go and find the envelope adjustments for each of the operators, which suits me best. But that's an activity which I leave up to you. You can download the patch from my website. The link is down in the description. You can download this patch and all following patches from my website if you like. The link is again down in the description. Let me point out some possible and useful general additions to this patch and the following ones, to this patch and the following patches. We could add an envelope modulation to the feedback function of each operator by adding a DC offset module which sends its DC through an envelope modulated VCA to the feedback input jack. And we could double each of the 3 operator inputs with an additional envelope VCA couple so that we can sculpture the influence of more than one modulating operator. In the last patch, it's operator 4, which modulates operator 1 directly and without any envelope. All right, the next algorithm to patch is algorithm 6 of Yamaha's DX27. Here, operator 4 modulates operator 1, operators 1, 2, and 3 at the same time, and again, operator 4 runs with a little bit of feedback. I've already patched this algorithm. Please notice that only the mixer channel of operator 4 is muted. Here. So that all other operators, operator 1, 2, and 3, send their audio directly to the mixer, to the main mixer output. And I will leave this envelope, the main volume envelope, alone in this patch. Let me play around with some adjustments, first of which I have already done. All 3 operators which send their audio to the audio mixer are tuned in octaves, you see. Octave 2, here is octave 4. Let me scroll. Octave 3 and octave 2. Well, the octave of mixer channel of operator 4 is not that important here. Okay. Well, let me change the settings. I want all 3 audio operators which send their audio to the mixer channel run on a quite high sustain, no attack, no decay, no release. So now I adjust the envelopes of the modulating operator 4. Oh, sorry, operator 4. So, here. Perhaps a little bit of attack. No. No, I'll use only, yeah, that is that's what I was looking for. Okay, now you can do sound experiments of your own with this patch. Algorithm 8 of Yamaha's DX27 now. Here all 4 operators contribute directly to the audio out, only that operator 4 is running with some feedback again. I've already patched this algorithm, well, not much of patching needed. And I've tuned all 4 operators in octaves, and voila, here we have an organ sound. With the feedback here of operator 4 and suitable envelope adjustments here on the main envelope, we can adjust the organ click as well as the color of the sound. Let me increase the feedback. Okay. And more of click. Perhaps a little bit less of feedback. Okay. Bit of attack. All right. Next one. And to finish this section of the video, I've patched an algorithm which Yamaha's DX27 didn't have on board. There are 2 parallel voices, let me call it voices, operator 2 modulating operator 1, and operator 4 modulating operator 3. The output of both chains is fed back to modulate the first operator in the chain. The feedback loop goes across more than only one operator this way. Algorithms like that are excellent for designing instruments with complex timbre developments over time. In my aforementioned FM/PM workshop, I designed different piano sounds with algorithms like that. Just follow the link down in the description to learn more about it. With this algorithm, I get different sound developments depending on the way I play the keyboard. With staccato notes, I get a kind of, let's say, snare-ish piano, and when I play legato, the sound becomes a stringy character with quite a bit of noise, which fades away when releasing the key. Let me demonstrate this. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, are there any here today? Okay, you have achieved it. You have kept up your condition and stayed until the end of today's video. Congratulations. It was a quite long one. All right, and now hurry up. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, switch the bell on, then go to my website, subscribe to my newsletter, and buy everything that I've got in my shop. Don't waste time. Okay, get on. Cheers and peace.